Disney celebrates 100 years this year. There's new park merch celebration items, there's been some special screenings of some movies. I don't actually know how much of that has to do with the anniversary. Disney would have just re-released these in cinemas anyway. But importantly for our little audience here, we have new LEGO sets available. But what if I use such exciting buzzwords like disappointing to get your attention? While the new sets revealed for the wave of 2023 are pretty solid all around, I am still left feeling disappointed in the line overall. There's a lot that has yet to be covered over the near 10 years of this line technically existing, and I wonder why all of these sets are still missing. From Disney and Pixar, we're still missing a lot of key characters and some key locations or some iconic scenes, so I wanted to make what is essentially a wish list or a series of demands, and take your pick, and hope that these wishes do come true. If you enjoyed this video or you agree or disagree, whatever, liking and subscribing and commenting helps to support the channel. Because the Disney catalog of stuff that I like is very large, I have split these groups apart. I don't think that Pixar and Disney should be as meshed together like this for the time being. There's just too much to cover, especially with Pixar, so it's been too long now. Let's just split them across and talk about them as separate companies. Starting in the Disney era, there's a lot of fan favorites that have already been adapted into LEGO. We do have the Disneyland Castle, which was a successful selling item for years, and it helped lead the way for a more gorgeous Disney train. The Fabulous 5, or Sensational 6 actually, became much easier to get a hold of over the years, appearing in other store exclusives and in other CMF series, but they also eventually got their own juniors line. These sets were very nicely complemented with the Disney Princess line featuring the famous princesses in mini doll forms, and the multiple CMF series did introduce many fan favorite characters like Alice, Aladdin, Anna and Elsa, and with the upcoming Series 3 we have even more on offer. For me personally, the addition of Sorcerer Mickey is long overdue, but the Oswald the Lucky Rabbit figure is the standout winner in my book. So the line overall has a great little run of some excellent additions, but we are still missing what I feel are some key inclusions. We'll start with the easy absence, that's the Disney princesses. At the time of this recording, there have now been 5 of the princesses made into LEGO. The first being Ariel, the first CMF series back in 2016. She was eventually joined by 3 new inclusions with Anna, Elsa and Jasmine in the CMF series too. But by this point, Ariel was now a retired figure. Moana is the latest to join the cast, quite a few years too late though, because these characters are no longer available, but Moana is the first one to make it into a LEGO set as a minifigure. All of these ladies have been readily available for years now as mini dolls, mind you. Well, Disney CMF Series 3 is going to add to the cast not just 1 or 2, but actually 4 missing members to the group, which is the biggest inclusions yet. Aurora, Mulan and Pocahontas add to the Classics collection, but they don't finish that collection, we'll get into that in a sec, and Tiana helps to almost complete the Modern collection. Also not fully complete, we'll get into that in a sec. Now if we were considering the numbers of the group some years ago, we would actually be complete right now, and if we weren't so specific on who those members were. But now the group has reached 14 members, so we are still short by 5. They're actually pretty important characters as well. Let's get into it. Snow White is the first ever Disney princess, but she remains absent. But we came pretty close to her being adapted into a minifigure, as there were words of an ideas set going into consideration before it was announced to then be cancelled. If I remember correctly, I don't think the set was even replaced in the ideas lineup either. Whack! Last we heard, Snow White hasn't actually been entirely ruled out though. She will be celebrating her own extravagant anniversary soon, and we speculated that Disney would probably want to hold off until that point for her celebration. It is entirely possible that these other girls will be adapted into minifigures during this time, and that LEGO will celebrate the collection finally being complete by releasing Snow White on the anniversary. But only time will tell. Oddly enough, Cinderella has also been left out by LEGO, and I say that I think it's weird because her castle was allowed the spotlight featuring famous Disney princess Tinkerbell. Why she's been left out of here is completely unknown to me. I would say that she and Snow White might have their own celebration things at some point. Maybe LEGO has handpicked the princesses who will receive their own special treatment rather than their own CMF numbered slot, but you could imagine that maybe LEGO would want to make the carriage its own set, complete with the mice and fairy godmother and the prince maybe, who knows. The last of the classic era of princesses is Belle from Beauty and the Beast, which is one of my most nostalgic movies of this line, so where's she at, LEGO? Beauty and the Beast broke new grounds for animated pictures, becoming the first ever animated feature nominated for Best Picture. Widely deemed a classic upon release, it is a wonder why Beast's Tower hasn't been brought into the LEGO minifigure system yet. The mini dolls have had Belle and Beast placements for years upon multiple re-releases, but I would still stick to my theory that these 3 princesses are specifically being eyed up for a bigger celebration. Bigger than 100 years? I don't know. On to the modern girls now, Merida and Rapunzel from Brave and Tangled respectively. Merida has the issue on being included, but she's from the other studio. The modern princesses originally seem to be pretty separate a lot of the time, but as the years have gone on now, they've all been formed together more closely, and they're now even appearing in one another's different art styles. Merida's inclusion in LEGO is no different from some of the others, again, more and more mini doll releases, but as for the Pixar representation, there's a very small number of Pixar movies that have made it into LEGO sets. It's not unlikely of Merida to get a minifigure treatment herself. She does appear in the LEGO Incredibles game, which featured characters from all of the Pixar movies as minifigs, so we've seen some form of it being done before. It's just a question of, would LEGO view the scenario as Brave getting picked before other more demanded Pixar entries? Who knows? Merida makes for a great CMF slot though, just saying. Rapunzel has also had her fair share of towers released in the Mini Dolls line, and the set itself makes for a pretty perfect soul release to represent that movie. However, we've yet to have one in a minifigure form, so I don't really know what's been happening with that. I would think it's more likely that LEGO would want to make the tower again, but this time in minifigure form, because Rapunzel is the first Disney princess in the 3D realm, so there is warrant there for a more specialized release. So those are the 5 princesses that are missing, and the reasons behind why they are important, which makes me think that maybe something more special is in the works. Maybe. But let's talk about some of the other movies and characters. Me personally, I'm a Disney parks guy, so when it comes to whatever I think Disney cherishes the most, I kind of view whatever has park representation. Would I want to see Chicken Little, Brother Bear, and Jose and Panchito in minifigure form? Absolutely, on at least 3 of those characters, and going by my logic of the park representation, they would already be here. Parks do take top hierarchy for me personally. I'm absolutely not against other properties with no attachments to the parks. I just would like to have my own parks display at some point, and in order to do that, I need all of these inclusions. So the most recent addition to the Disney lineup and mega hit was Encanto, which gained a large following post-release in cinemas and is already getting added to the parks. I think the Encanto house set is a good looking set for being a solid grounds area for characters to hang out in, but it wasn't minifigure form, so it's a no-buy from me, sorry. I can see Mirabelle getting a figure at some point though, because I think her parts would be so useful, so the figure would sell very well. It is insane to me that LEGO Lion King still does not exist. A brick-built Simba may or may not be in development, but this IP hasn't even been brought into BrickHeadz yet. There are LEGO idea submissions frequently, and yes, you could probably get away with just using regular LEGO animals if you really wanted to, but that means that they will lack the expressions of the cartoon. I'm not trying to adapt the Jon Favreau movie here, I want the original animals. The cartoony designs I think would be excellent on those characters. I'm just surprised that it hasn't been done yet, not even in like a juniors line. On that subject of weird Jon Favreau Disney remakes, the Jungle Book would make for a really fun set, because the figures would use a really great variety of main character animals. The Jungle Book has this amazing line of McDonald's toys when I was a kid, where you would get a part of a tower along with a character, and that tower would be built up to feature all of them. And tons of play features there as well. Jungle Book has amazing character design, so this would be the top of my list. Keeping in themes with the animals here, and maybe that's actually why none of these sets exist, Dumbo is very important in the branding of Disney. They love that Dumbo Ride so much that it's the only ride featured in every Disney park around the world. How they do Dumbo, I'm not so sure, but I basically believe that because they absolutely nailed Eeyore's design in the Winnie the Pooh set, I struggle to see an excuse as to why other animals can't be made in LEGO. So now how about we look at those IPs that have been brought into LEGO in one way or another, but should be brought back now into the fold because most of these are long gone. Lilo & Stitch is also considered a classic Disney movie amongst my generation of fans, so it's shocking to me that Lilo has yet to be brought into the LEGO world. Not even as a mini doll figure, mind you. Stitch makes his second appearance this year in the CMF series, but there are other characters in the IP that have such fun designs, I'm surprised at the lack of merchandise here. Angel is also shown at the Disney parks in soft toys and clothing, so there's at least 2 characters there that can be brought in. Tron is my absolute #1 theme at the Disney parks. If I see Tron, I'm there. I know, basic film bro shit. But the Tron Legacy set is one of my all-time favorite LEGO sets, mostly due to the fact that it's an idea set that wasn't triple digits. Do you guys remember a time where idea sets could actually theoretically be affordable? I think the light cycle just really needs to come back. And while I do love Tron Legacy more than the original could lend to an interesting design with maybe a more cel-shaded appearance and look. I would imagine that the minimalist approach would be really cool as well, and this way if you were lucky enough to get the Tron Legacy set you would have both light cycles. The original clothes and outfit designs would make for a unique figure as well. I was hoping for a CMF of Flynn or Tron I guess, but then I would also want Sark for the color change. Peter Pan has now been brought into LEGO twice, Tinkerbell 2 actually. If you missed the CMF series and the Disney Castle, you're lucky in 2023 because now you're able to get this really cool Disney train. That's how we were able to have this iconic movie in LEGO. The Jolly Roger is also an icon of Disney, so I'm surprised that this very easy of an idea playset hasn't been developed yet. Again, mostly for the colours, but I think Captain Hook could have a much better figure this time around too. A Smee and a Wendy to complement the Peter and Tink figures sounds like a day one purchase for me. Alice in Wonderland is my all-time favorite classic Disney animated movie, but I don't have that Alice figure. Tragic, I know. I would love to see Mad Hatter's Tea Party because that also sounds like a solid idea of a playset. It could have play features to move all of the chairs and the teacups and food items around as well. Very easy way to get Alice, Hatter, and the March Hare too. The final segment here, did I mention that I'm a Disney Parks guy? Cause now we should talk about the parks themselves and their attractions. LEGO started making these MIDI scaled sets with figures based on the parks themselves. There's only 2 at the moment though, and one of those is just Mickey with the castle, but the other one was the Haunted Mansion and the Butler. I love the Haunted Mansion attraction a lot, but probably not enough for $80 NZ for a small little set like this, but I would look into getting a decent sized set of the attraction. Some of my favourite merch comes from this ride, and they even make these really great looking diorama displays. Ever since LEGO made one of the coolest Marvel sets ever in Brothor's New Asgard, I haven't stopped thinking about the possibilities of isometric room dioramas. So I would love for LEGO to make maybe the ballroom, or the hitching post with the hitchhiking ghost as minifigures. I would even accept an Eddie Murphy movie set, but I think the others I listed are a lot more likely. And on the lines of attractions into movies, Jungle Cruise is right up there with the Haunted Mansion on notoriety. Jungle Cruise movie could have received some really cool sets from LEGO honestly. It's a pretty decent production scaled adventure movie, so those sets would have been great. We all love those Indiana Jones sets, the Prince of Persia line, and the Lone Ranger ones, so these sets would have been exactly similar, honestly. I think that the LEGO City line covers most of the Jungle Cruisey type of stuff, but I wouldn't mind the dock honestly, where the canoes are, or a waterfall with the animals even.
Alright folks, the moment you've all have been waiting for, the eighth wonder of the world, the backside of water!
The figures would make for some really cool jungle explorers as well. It could work really well if they made the Jungle Book. Now out of all of the lands of the park, Tomorrowland is my favourite one. I do actually really like the movie, but that might just be a bias because I love the creators involved. Tomorrowland features some of the more admired attractions of the parks, but the obvious winner is Space Mountain. Here's where I actually differ from my previous discussions because I actually think that Space Mountain does work best as a MIDI scaled set. The mountain is huge and inside is pitch black, so there's nothing to really see or build for a likeness. And Tomorrowland the movie is actually based more on the idea of the parks rather than the ride itself. So I think that the monument as a micro display would be best. The figure to be included in this? Give us Walt Disney. It's rare that we get real life people as minifigures, and I think that this would be a really exciting addition. Walt himself was all about the future of technology and bringing the world together to a better place, so it makes perfect sense in my eyes. Finally, this is due to LEGO already in my eyes acknowledging that they would consider something like this. I think Star Tours should be part of one of the Star Wars waves, like now. Star Tours is one of the most popular attractions at the Disney parks and the first collaboration between Disney and Star Wars. I have a feeling that that might be the reason why it isn't as heavily merchandised outside of the parks, but I think that the Star Tours car would be a standout piece of merchandise for me. If I had it my way, original Captain Rex would be the figure that is included, but it is likely that they would put 3PO in there because how easy would that be? Just re-release another 3PO. The idea came to me when LEGO made the Resistance ITS transport vehicle, the docking bay vehicle based in Galaxy's Edge, which makes for the 5th and final LEGO set based on the Disney Parks rides. So the potential of making the rides into sets is definitely there. I would just really love to see LEGO do more. That is my long, lengthy list on Disney properties that I want to see in LEGO form. Which ones did I miss? Which ones do you agree or disagree with? If you want to see what Pixar sets I think need to be brought into LEGO, then click right here. Liking and subscribing helps to support the channel. Thank you and take care.